Our guest on This is America and the World is Ambassador Daouda Diabate. Ambassador Diabate is ambassador to the United States from the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast. The ambassador has formerly served as Côte d'Ivoire's ambassador to Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda, as well as the country's ambassador to the Kingdom of Morocco and Brazil. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity through This is America and the World to give a presentation on my country, Côte d'Ivoire, that you usually call Ivory Coast. Mm-hmm. It is an African country, of course, located in the western part of Africa. And Côte d'Ivoire has, of course, neighboring countries. But before reaching to the neighboring country, I have to speak about Côte d'Ivoire before. Uh-huh. You know, Côte d'Ivoire is a former French colony. Mm-hmm. And the country became independent in August 7, 1960, under the leadership of our very first president, President Félix Houphouët-Boigny. And Côte d'Ivoire, of course, has some neighbors. We have Ghana on the east. On the east, Ghana is the only neighbor from the south up to the north. And in the north, we have Burkina Faso and then Mali. Mm-hmm. Then when we come to the west-north, we have Guinea, and west-south, we have Liberia. And then in the very south, we have the Atlantic Ocean. Mm-hmm. We have a coast of about 550 kilometers of coast. Mm.
What's the population of the country?
The population of the country today is about 23 million people. Mm. About 23 million people.
And the capital?
The capital is Yamoussoukro. Oh. Yamoussoukro is let's say, the political and administrative capital. It is a small country, a small city. And Yamoussoukro is very famous because of the basilica. Because in Yamoussoukro, we have the biggest cathedral in the world.
The biggest cathedral?
It is, yes. It is the Basilica of Yamoussoukro, of Peace of Yamoussoukro. It's even bigger than the one in Rome.
Is it a Christian country, or is it Christian and Muslim?
Christian and Muslim, and even we have a third part of the population that is the traditional believers. So we have Christian, we have Muslim, and we have those who still believe in the traditional practices.
And what would the traditional practices be like? What would they believe?
Oh, they believe in what traditionally Africans believed before the arrival of Muslim and Christianity. So some people worship stone, others rivers, others forests, you know.
Nature, huh?
Nature, let's say nature. And we still have people who believe in these traditional believing, but the population has a huge part of Muslim, a huge part of Christian, and another part. And to still come to the question you ask, I say the political and administrative capital is Yamoussoukro, and the economic capital is Abidjan.
Oh, so two capitals.
Yes, Abidjan is the economic, let's say, backbone of the country. Mm. It is a city of about 5 million people out of the 23 million the country has. Oh. It is a huge and beautiful city.
Is a country more urban or more rural?
Still, the country is still rural. but urbanization is growing, and we have some big cities, but by far Abidjan is the biggest city, because after Abidjan, none of the other cities reach 1 million. None of them.
But we'll talk about this in a second. But of course, farming and the earth is incredibly important to the Ivory Coast, huh?
Yes, because as you know, Côte d'Ivoire is an agricultural country. The economy is based on agriculture, and by the way, I should mention that Côte d'Ivoire is the world #1 cocoa producer. But we are not just world #1 cocoa producer, we produce up to 40% of the total cocoa produced in the world.
Whoa.
That's why I usually say, whenever you eat 10 chocolate bars, make sure that you have eaten 4 coming from Côte d'Ivoire, from the chocolate of Côte d'Ivoire, cocoa of Côte d'Ivoire.
4 out of 10, huh?
Yes.
Let's take a little break on that delicious note,
Okay.
Mr. Ambassador. And I'll try, is it Daouda? Is that the first name, Daouda?
Yes.
Diabate.
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 Yes.
The ambassador from the Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire.
Côte d'Ivoire.
That's the official diplomatic name, huh?
Yes, the official diplomatic name of my country is Côte d'Ivoire.
So we'll take a little break. We're talking with the ambassador. Sit tight. On the other side, we're going to explore more about this wonderful country. This is America and the World. This is America and the World is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Ambassador Julia Chang Block, President. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. Tourism, Malaysia. The PETROLIN Group, expertise with integrity in the fields of oil and gas, exploration and production, energy, and infrastructure. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services. During the little break that we had, you were responding to me in French. Merci, ça va. That is the official language, and the French was colonization under the French, huh?
Yes, of course. As you know, the French colonies usually speak French, and in my country, in Côte d'Ivoire, our official language is French. But in addition to that, we have our own, let's say, local languages. And in my country, we have about 60.
60?
Yes, 60.
60 different languages. My Lord.
But,
let me ask this. You read about the Ivory Coast, the Gold Coast, the Slave Coast, the Wheat Coast, the Grain Coast. How did all of those names, are they all attached to what the traders were looking for, the merchants were looking for?
Exactly. It depends what they found in the location. For instance, in Gold Coast, that is now Ghana, they found a lot of gold there, so they just say Gold Coast. And in my country, at that time, there were a lot of elephants. And since they were looking for the ivory, they just named my country Ivory Coast.
They also called it Teeth Coast, didn't they?
That's true. That's good.
So the French, well, even before the French, just going back 500 or 600 years, Islam was incredibly important there, huh?
Yes, Islam arrived far before the arrival of Christianity, because, you know, there was a former empire, the Manding Empire in the region that covered a large part of the West African region, and Islam come through these empires. And of course, the northern part of Côte d'Ivoire has been really Islamized. And that's why we have a very huge proportion of the population that is Muslim. But by the way, what I want to mention is that in Côte d'Ivoire, this is not an issue at all, because in the family, in the same family, you find Christian, Muslim,
Is
and
that
even
true?
yes, the cohabitation is perfect, and that is one of the miracles of Côte d'Ivoire.
I've read that phrase, the miracle of Côte d'Ivoire, in some of the literature I read. But freedom of religion is guaranteed in the Constitution.
Freedom of in the Constitution it is laicity. It is laicity. I don't know how you say it in English. It is laic, which means that it doesn't belong to any religion. The state is neutral.
Free state, yeah.
A free state. You call it free state?
No specific religion, yes.
No, in French they say laïque. It means, laïque means not Christian as the official religion, not Islam as the official religion, or not Buddhist as the official religion. It means that the state, the republic is neutral as far as religion is concerned. So it is free religion. Anyone has the choice to practice the religion that he like.
When the colonization happened, that's 1800s, isn't it?
Yes.
And how was it that the French, what were the French looking for, and how did they get so involved? Because there was Portuguese, there was Dutch, there was British, there was French. How is it that the French got so invested in Côte d'Ivoire?
Of course, when the French arrived in our country, they were, of course, looking for, let's say, merchandise. And among those merchandise, you can even mention, I don't want to come back to what is one of the I don't know what word used, the bad memory of history. You know, there were slavery, there was all these practices, but they were as well looking for gold, they were looking for diamond, they were looking for timber, they were looking for product. And when they arrive in our country, what will become Côte d'Ivoire, they found a lot of opportunities there. Elephant tooth, as you mentioned, they found a lot of opportunity to grow coffee, cocoa, all these. And that has attracted them. So they settled there, and they made of Côte d'Ivoire one of the colonies in the region.
So the culture of today is still influenced heavily by the French, huh?
Yes, of course, because most of our leaders have been trained in France, you know, and the education is according to the French system, and you know, that has created a link between the former colony and the former colonizer and the colonies. So the link are not only cultural, they are economic, commercial.
So it's been a good relationship.
It's that's a good relationship.
I was surprised to find out that even up until the late 1950s, that decisions about Côte d'Ivoire were being made in Paris.
Yes, because we were French colonies.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the first president of Côte d'Ivoire was mentioning, he was minister in the French government. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that relationship is very close.
He was minister in the French government, and it is from there that he got his expertise to come to reclaim and get the independence of his country and rule so quickly and put Côte d'Ivoire ahead in as far as the step of development is concerned. When we speak about miracle, you know, they spoke about the Côte d'Ivoire economic miracle. That was the first miracle they was referring to as far as Côte d'Ivoire is concerned. And it was under the leadership of the very first president, President Félix Houphouët-Boigny.
So independence is 1960.
Yes, August 7.
What, when they talk about the miracles of Côte d'Ivoire, what miracles are we talking about?
Okay, you know, when Côte d'Ivoire became independent, the former president used to say that Côte d'Ivoire was the Benjamin of the French colony. Something like the last of the French colonies. Education was poor. The teachers used to come from Benin, that was Dahomey at the time, even from other countries, from Senegal. They were ahead in a matter of education, but were among the last. So when President Félix Houphouët-Boigny, who was minister, a cabinet minister in France, when he became president, he put the key interest in education. And for more than almost 3 decades, education was consuming 1/3, about 30% of the budget regularly each year to reinforce the education system, to educate a lot of young Ivorian ladies, young girls and young boys. And even in 1946, before the independence, in 1946, he sent a certain number of young Ivorian by boat to France to be trained in school there. They call them Aventure 46, 1946 adventures. So they went there, they got the training. So when the country became independent, very quickly we have the people to take care of the development of the country.
Boy, education is everything, isn't it?
Education is very important.
And that just lifts up the whole society, huh?
Yes, and it is the best way to democratize the wealth, accession to social, let's say, upheaving of the population.
Côte d'Ivoire is a very successful country, isn't it?
Yes, I should say.
It is
without any complex, I can say that Côte d'Ivoire is today a very successful country. Thanks to the leadership of our current president, President Alassane Ouattara, who, by the way, arrived here at the age of 20, when he was in 1962. When he was 20, he arrived here as a student, and he studied at the Pennsylvania University, and he studied there. He got his PhD in economics. He worked here at the World Bank as a Deputy Director General at the, not World Bank, IMF. Sorry. At IMF, he was Deputy Director General there. He got a lot of experience, and when he became president of the country, he has shifted everything in very spectacular manner.
Because he has been heavily influenced by American systems and by just absorbing how we do things, huh?
Yes, I should say so, because, you know, he didn't come directly president. He was first when he studied here, and then he has been picked by the former president I was referring to become the governor of our regional central bank, because we have a common central bank for 8 countries, and he was the governor there. And then he became the prime minister of that president, because at the time the president was aging, and he needs someone to help him to take care of the country, and he called him to become the prime minister. He has been prime minister until the passing away, prime minister from November 90 up to December 93, when the president passed away. It is when he left and then he became IMF Deputy Director General. It is after all this experience that he became himself president of the country. When he became president of the country, let me tell you that it is just when we were getting out of the crisis. And when he arrived to power on April 11, 2011, the growth rate was negative, minus 4.7. And 18 months later, I mean December 2012, the growth rate reached, imagine, 9.8%.
Perfect, perfect. Mr. Ambassador, we just have a few minutes left, and I say a few. Today, cocoa, rubber, coffee, pineapple, palm oil, all part of the economy, huh?
Yes, today, as I mentioned, Côte d'Ivoire is still #1 in the world for cocoa, with the production that I mentioned, 1.7 million tons per year, with representing 40% of the total world cocoa production. We are #1 as well for cashew, for more than 700,000 tons per year. We are #1 for cola, with more than 120 tons per year. And in addition to that, we are among the top 10, be it in Africa or in the world, for pineapple, for banana, for sugarcane, for rubber, for cotton, for palm oil, any kind of tropical product you can think about. Côte d'Ivoire is among the top 10. And then we have shifted our policy. The President Alassane Ouattara, who is the current president of the country, as I mentioned, he has decided that Côte d'Ivoire, of course, has been for long a great agricultural product producer. And now we want to shift to become a great agricultural product processor.
Processor.
Yes.
Processor,
to
yes.
add values, to create job, employment, mostly for young men and ladies, women, in order to fight against poverty, to create wealth in the country.
Mr. Ambassador, we have 1 minute. So we have not talked about the culture. We have not talked about so many things. But as we go out, we'll have to come to your country. Is tourism a big deal?
Yes. I invite you to come to Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay, that's where we'll
look. You know, my fear is what?
What?
You decide not to return.
But I want very much to say this. At the embassy on Massachusetts Avenue, here in Washington, D.C., there is a wonderful, wonderful exhibit of African art, especially from Côte d'Ivoire. And I want you to tell us a little bit about the exhibit as we go. So what I'm going to do is thank you for being our guest today. We will learn more about the culture when we go there. But as we go out, we want to show some pictures of the art at the exhibit and encourage people to find the embassy on Massachusetts Avenue and visit this spectacular exhibit. So tell us a little bit about the exhibit.
Okay, the exhibit has been possible thanks to, let's say, AGOA. AGOA, to which Côte d'Ivoire has been eligible since October 2011, has given this opportunity to support the Fatou Silla Foundation, that is the owner of that exhibition. So since September 2014, we have made at the embassy the launching of this exhibition that is open to the public, to the American public, mostly those who are African art lovers. So you are very welcome. We have a variety of African art at the Embassy of Côte d'Ivoire, not only from Côte d'Ivoire, but from some neighboring African countries. Even from Central Africa, most of them come from, let's say, Sub-Saharan Africa. And you are really welcome to visit. It is still open.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For information about This is America and the World, and to watch all of our programs, visit our website, thisisamerica.net, and look for us on Facebook and Twitter. This is America and the World is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Ambassador Julia Chang Block, President. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. Tourism Malaysia. The PETROLIN Group, expertise with integrity in the fields of oil and gas, exploration and production, energy, and infrastructure. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services.